All right, good to go.
All right. Thank you, Susan. All right, looks like we have quite a few people on the call today. So grateful that quite a few of our partners could join us. And I am going to turn off my video here for a second, and we will get started. I'm going to share my screen, turn off my video so we don't have any connectivity issues, and we'll get started here. I want to make sure that everyone can see the slides okay. Can you see a beautiful picture of the ocean and whatnot with targeted conservation delivery? Just a checkout there. Can you guys see that okay?
Can. Yes.
All right, great. Thanks. All right. Susan, hey, if you hear some feedback out there, some folks that are not muted, if you'll just watch the participant level so we don't have a lot of feedback there. So, all right, well, welcome. I'm Travis Thomason. I am the director for USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service. And I'm happy that all of you have joined the call today. We're really excited to talk to you a little bit about a shift in our business model, if you will, to what we're calling a targeted conservation delivery system. And we internally have talked about this delivery model or this shift in the way that we do business for the past couple of years. We've got a few of our leadership team members on the call and maybe a couple of DCs. But this call is intended to be for our conservation partners out there. We've done several of these calls before. This is one of a few others that we're trying to get this information out there. And I really just want to tell everybody thank you for the time today. And I want to give a shout out to one of our leadership team members, Chad Sharefko. He's our Assistant Director for Programs. He has been a big part of making this happen, and wanted to let you know that you're also going to hear from him today. I'm going to cover the what and the why, if you will, of this transition to our targeted conservation delivery model, and he's going to talk about the how. And we've spent a lot of time fleshing things out, and we've had several focus groups. Our State Technical Advisory Committee has heard this, so if you're on our State Technical Advisory Committee, you've heard some of this, but this is our final after several vetting groups that we're moving forward. So quick agenda today. I'm going to cover the background and the big picture, the what and the why, as I mentioned, if you will. Chad's going to cover the how, so the support concept, some of the templates of how we're going to roll this business model out, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. And please know that a very large part of this process is strengthening the conservation partnerships. It's very partner driven, and you'll see that throughout the presentation. And we'll continue to have what we call TCD office hours for all of our staff and our partners. Because this is very partner driven, we want to make sure that we get your questions answered, and we continue to focus on those things that are most important to the partnership. So with that said, let's get into it. Let's focus on the big picture. So our mission and our vision. If you're new with NRCS, or if you're new to NRCS, you haven't worked with us before, if you've worked with us in the past, here about a year or so ago, we walked through this process of strengthening our mission and vision statements, and I wanted to share those with you quickly. I'm a little bit partial to them. I was on the team that developed these mission and vision statements, and I really appreciate their focus and the intentional organizational direction that they provide to the agency. So our mission is to deliver conservation solutions so ag producers can conserve natural resources and feed a growing world. That's what we do, and for whom. Our vision is resilient islands with clean and abundant water, healthy soils, and thriving agricultural communities. That's where we're headed. Everything we do every day within the NRCS is focused on accomplishing our mission and getting to that vision. That's why people come to work for and with us. I see Brenda Iokepa Moses on the call, and she's also with USDA. And she, although her mission is a little bit different, she has great employees, great people that work for her. And our why is very similar. We're about helping people help the land. And today's meeting is what we're doing to get there, what we're doing to achieve that vision. And targeted conservation delivery is a big part of that. So part of that mission delivery, so about 8 to 9 months ago, some of you may recall, we were very focused on developing a strategic plan for NRCS Pacific Islands area. So the area that covers the Pacific, Hawaii, American Samoa, the foreign area with the greater Micronesia, if you will, Guam, and then the Northern Mariana Islands. And this strategic plan was one that involved many of you, many of our staff, and I just want to say thank you for your help there. And this strategic plan focuses on 3 key areas: customers, delivering highly effective conservation solutions for our customers. Our employees, goal 2, is cultivating an empowered workforce. And then goal 3, our partners, accelerating results through strategic partnerships. Now, targeted conservation delivery is heavy in goal 1, but you can see there are elements of this business model that are key throughout all of these goals. But today, we're going to focus really on this goal 1 of delivering highly effective conservation solutions for our customers. And that our first objectives, we have a couple of objectives in there that really relate to our customers. But this first objective, strengthening the stewardship of private lands through high impact, locally led targeted conservation, is foundational to this targeted conservation delivery model, or TCD. You're going to hear that acronym, to ensure that we are giving our customers what we need. And we're working with partners to ensure that their high impact, high priority needs, it's locally led, and it's targeted with much of the work that we do. Some of this will make sense. We've got a model or a framework that will help put all of this together a little bit later in the presentation. But I wanted to share really how all of this fits in with our mission, vision, and our strategic plan, and specifically our goals of delivering highly effective conservation solutions for our customers. Now, the why. Our purpose of all of this, of targeted conservation delivery, is to really enhance our capacity to better serve our customers. We're strategically investing with our producers, our customers and partners, to solve really highly critical, highly important natural resource problems at the local area, to be more effective, efficient, and accountable with all of our organizational resources. This TCD, this targeted conservation delivery model, is our strategic path forward to ensure that we're delivering streamlined, efficient conservation solutions to our customers so they can conserve natural resources and feed a growing world. Let's get into a little bit more about specifically what is TCD. So TCD is this model, and there are a few acronyms that we'll cover, but it's helpful to think about TCD as this overall business model that we're implementing. It's a different way or a change in how we think about conservation delivery. This isn't a new concept to us. So we started piloting this in our Kona office back in 2018 with a spittlebug project. This is really where we got this first taste of targeting our resources, both our financial, our technical resources. Many of our current initiatives within NRCS nationally are very TCD-like, very targeted in the way that we deliver our funds and our technical assistance. So our National Water Quality Initiative, our Source Water Protection Program within EQIP, our Joint Chiefs Landscape Restoration Initiative, and RCPP. In fact, this model, TCD, is intended to prepare many of our partnerships at the local level to think more in the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, so that potentially they'll be ready to move to a greater degree into RCPP in the future. And the RCPP program is really a great program. We see it as a great opportunity for all of the Pacific in the future because of the flexibility that it has within the program. And we recognize we are not a Midwestern or a mainland state, which sometimes our programs are really geared towards. And so we recognize that RCPP and some of these other initiatives are a great way for us to really tackle some of these key priority issues for us. And we talked about TCD with some of our leadership team last year, and we've been working on TCD to bring this to you today. Also, to let you know that there are a few other mainland states that have a similar concept. Ours is different specifically to fit PIA, but really this targeting concept of really focusing on priority resource concerns, focusing on outcomes, is not new to NRCS. And probably most importantly, it's all about partnerships. And we're focusing on what the partnerships can do to really focus on outcomes and conservation benefits. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit more, but we wanted to really focus on these foundational principles of TCD. You can see there on the screen. TCD is partner-centric and locally led. We want to strengthen our relationship with our local, state, and federal partners, other NGOs, to identify and focus our investments on highest priority resource needs on our islands. It's cost effective. We're hoping that we can co-invest with some of our partners by collaborating with them, things that maybe they're already doing. They just need a little bit more focus on certain project areas, things that they're doing, and really making the most effective use of our limited federal conservation dollars and leveraging those with other partners as we focus on building resilient islands and thriving ag communities. It's focused and it's targeted. Instead of funding conservation projects on a farm-by-farm approach, we really want to harness that power of working with multiple landowners that are undertaking similar conservation projects to achieve that broader local or regional outcome. It's results-oriented. This targeted approach really emphasizes conservation planning with more impactful results in mind, or outcomes-based conservation concepts. So NRCS staff work with our local partners, many of you, to set measurable goals to track and achieve meaningful conservation benefits to communities. In this most recent Farm Bill, we saw the words outcomes conservation outcomes, conservation benefits quite a few times. We also saw Congress tell us that we needed to streamline our conservation delivery system. So we're shifting more to a results-oriented, focusing on conservation benefits to our communities. And then last but not least, we see it as a management tool. This approach really helps us, our leadership team and field staff, better prioritize, track, plan, and monitor our conservation projects on the ground. And this way of doing business really allows us to more effectively deliver project planning and increases our efficiency in implementation. So those are really the foundational principles of this targeted conservation delivery model. I've got the framework on the next slide, but I just wanted to share with you the two really strong building blocks that are key to this TCD model, or this targeted conservation model. And those building blocks are a field office, a long-range plan. And this locally led plan, facilitated through the local work group, really outlines those high priority resource challenges. Every field office within the Pacific Islands area will have a long-range plan, and it really describes prioritized resource concerns that are identified through facilitated local work group discussions, and we'll talk a little bit about that facilitation process a little bit later. Focusing with the SWC, Soil and Water Conservation Districts, utilizing the information that they have in their long-range plans, and really using that available information to focus on a broad and visionary plan. It's essentially these envisioned outcomes or potential conservation benefits from long-range plans as an overarching goal. And this is led by the district conservationists working with partners to really be specific about goals and focused efforts needed to achieve those. That's the long-range plan. And we'll go into a little bit more detail, Chad, on the how a little bit later on what that long-range plan looks like. And then targeted conservation plans, that's the other building block, a key concept or deliverable within this model. These are the specific actions, if you will, that the local partnership plans to take to address primary resource concerns that are identified in this field office plan. TCPs will have some detailed information, proposals for a specific area addressing specific resource concerns, and how this local work group is going to go about and addressing those priority issues. Essentially, that goal of what they're going to do. And then at the end of each year, after we have established deadlines, we'll take all of this information, and then these targeted conservation plans are really going to drive where I make decisions as the director to invest our financial and technical resources at the broader PIA level. So Chad is going to talk a little bit more about this, but this is the framework. This is essentially all of this targeted conservation delivery approach, this model. This is how it all works. And you can see central to this is this locally led process, utilizing the local work groups to develop a field office long-range plan. This is really where we've got priority resource concerns, looking at the data that's available, utilizing the partnerships to really drive what's important. And then that field office long-range plan sets the tone for these targeted conservation plans or these proposals moving forward. And I'm really excited because this allows us to strengthen our relationships at the local level with our local partners, to really say, hey, Travis, this is what's important to us. This is where we want to see those local federal conservation or those federal conservation dollars be invested. And this is how we're going to move forward in the future. And that compilation of those targeted conservation plans are what we're terming as this conservation investment portfolio. Real quick, if you're wondering, what does this look like in the future? We see this as developing the long-range plans and these targeted conservation plans in 2021. So over the next 12 months, the district conservationists and the partners are going to be developing these, and then we are going to start putting financial assistance, technical assistance dollars towards these targeted conservation plans in 2022, starting in October, November next year. We're going to start putting money towards these projects. You might be asking yourself, who's going to be doing this work? And most of the field office long-range plans and TCPs will be developed and co-led with the NRCS district conservationist and a partner. And I've got a slide here to show you who's going to be that lead partner here in a second. And then funding levels. You might be wondering, what are we talking about? What's the money attached to some of these as far as the financial assistance? Year one in 2022, we're going to be targeting 50% of our available EQIP, CSP, AMA, some of those funds to be based on the TCP proposals at 50%. So in years past, we typically have seen about $10 million in EQIP funds here in PIA. We're looking at roughly $5 million available to go towards these targeted conservation plans, these projects recommended by the local work groups. $5 million to go towards TCPs in 2022. In year two, it's going to go up to 65%. In year three, based on the proposals, we're looking at a max of 80% of EQIP going towards TCP. So we're talking about significant funds that will be available for partners and DCs to collaborate and work together to address those key priority issues at the local level. Here are the lead partners. Many of you may be wondering how or why this partner is leading this level. About a year ago, as we were developing this concept, we felt like we wanted to take advantage of some of the great partnerships that are out there. We had an announcement of proposals or a notice of funding opportunities, if you will, and provided a statement of work that some of the partners could apply for some funds to be able to lead this process through. And we were happy to announce that here a few months ago, we have entered into an agreement with the Oahu RC&D to oversee the Oahu Field Office Long Range Plan and TCPs. Regis Tarifs is going to be overseeing the Kahului, the Hilo, and the American Samoa Long Range Plan and TCPs. We've got the Molokai and Lanai Soil and Water Conservation District is going to be handling the projects for Kanakakai, facilitating the Field Office Long Range Plan and TCP process. And looks like the Southern Guam SWCD is going to be taking care of Guam. And then NRCS, we wanted to keep a few of these on our own. NRCS is going to lead a facilitated discussion and processing for the field office long range plan and TCPs for the Lihue or Kauai office, Waimea office, and then the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. So this is definitely not a standalone process, very partner driven. And just wanted to give you an overview of what TCD looks like. And with that said, I'm just wondering, Chad, do you have anything you want to add before I turn the time over to you? Anything you wanted to clarify that I've covered?
No, Travis, I think I'll cover all the points I need to make in my portion of the presentation.
All right, great. Thanks so much. And Chad, again, is going to walk you through the how And Chad, just let me know how long you want me to keep the framework up on the screen.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Hello, everybody. I'm Chad Shrefko. I'm the Assistant Director for Programs on Travis's leadership team here for PIA. And Travis and I have been working on this idea, this concept for what feels like a couple of years now. And like Travis says, this approach, this concept isn't necessarily new to NRCS, but this process has been what we hope optimized for PIA to make it fit for us. And we really do think it is a great way to build on the success we've had and the success of our partners in implementing conservation over the years. There's a lot of good work that's been done in the Pacific Islands area over the years, and we feel like this is the way to take us to the next level, to be more intentional and achieve, more and greater outcomes that are aligned with the needs of the people here in PIA, and not just programmatic requirements or programmatic priorities, but making sure that we're aligning our efforts, our people, our funding to achieve things that are important to people locally. So this TCD framework really is a great depiction of the whole process. It's a great visual representation of what it looks like, and those blue boxes are really the point in the process where we're getting information, working with partners, really trying to figure out what the most pressing issues are. And in this effort, we've really tried to set aside traditional NRCS speak and jargon about resource concerns and land uses, and instead we're trying to have more of a conversation about, hey, what's important to you as a community? What are the biggest threats that you see to resilient communities and thriving agriculture, clean water, healthy soils? What are those barriers to success? Having those kind of conversations, and from that, distilling that down into some priorities that we can work on together, and that will be put together in what's called this field office long range plan. Now, this long range plan is the same name as what some of the SWCDs have been asked to develop in partnership with NRCS. They are different. So the SWCD long range plans absolutely can inform and influence this field office long range plan. But these field office long range plans are specific to an NRCS field office, which may cover multiple SWCDs and other partner agencies and groups. So it is very much specific to the field office. And that's why it's so critical for the district conservationists to really be taking a lead role and helping lead what NRCS can and can't work on, and incorporating partner input. So we get local input, we create some priorities, we put this into a long-range plan, and then from that long-range plan, we break it up into bite-sized chunks. This long-range plan is, anywhere from 3 to 5 years to help us achieve our goals, right? So how do we can't always do all of that all at once. We might not be organized enough. We might not have all the data that we need. We might not have all the funding that we need, or even the people. So we break it up into smaller pieces, one bite at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we can take a big problem, break it up into smaller, actionable projects that we can do in a couple of years' time. And so that's what the TCP is. The TCPs are proposals, actionable proposals, that outline where we're going to work, what we're going to do, how long it's going to take, how much money we need to achieve one of the priorities that's been identified in your long-range plan. And the idea is, collectively, all of these TCPs, all these different bite-sized chunks, eventually help us achieve the overarching goals and priorities of that long-range plan. So bite-sized pieces. And as Travis mentioned before, it's our investment. It's our investment portfolio, essentially. It's how we're investing not just our money, our funding, right? But how we're investing our people, our social capital, like our relationships with our partners and others, and our resources, right? All of those are limited. You know, we don't have unlimited people, time, and money. So it is very much a strategic investment, very intentional investment. All right, Travis, I'm going to share my screen and go over some of the particulars about the long-range plan, just so you guys can see what that looks like. And hopefully, can you guys see that okay, Travis?
I can't see anything yet. It's a black screen.
Black screen.
I can see it, Chad.
Okay.
There it is.
Travis,
You
you're just
might
a little
want to
slow.
zoom in a
I'm going to zoom in here. So what we try to create were basic templates. You know, we want to streamline this process as much as possible. And these long-range plans are the heavier lift of the two products. So you have the long-range plan and the TCPs, the proposals. So the long-range plan is the bigger document. You wouldn't create those each year. And it does require a good amount of data collection and collaboration to develop. So we wanted to create a framework that people could use to develop these and make sure we're getting all the critical information pulled together and considered. So the first part of this is just the introduction, and it's really talking about, you know, what's your overarching vision of success? What are you trying to achieve? What do you value? And this is that part of the discussion I was alluding to earlier, that we're trying to move away from this initial discussion, from the NRCS jargon of resource concerns, land use, etc., and instead having a conversation about what's important to our communities. What's the purpose?
Chad?
Yes.
Chad, is it possible for you to make their document bigger? Use
Yes.
the Zoom to make it larger, please. Thank you.
Is that big enough?
I think more if possible. Yeah, can you make it all the way wide? Okay, but that's probably good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How about that? All right, so purpose of the plan, you know, why are we working on these versus others? How are they going to help us achieve that vision? You know, brief summary, you know, what did you do? How did you gather that data? Talk about the people we worked with, and then also the time frame that the plan covers, you know, somewhere in the 3 to 5 year range. The next section is the natural resource inventory. So this is where we want to go and gather relevant natural resource data. We don't need to gather all of the data. We need to gather the right data, and the data that's going to help us make informed decisions about the things that are most important to us. So this is basically a checklist of potential data that we can go and gather. And some of this NRCS is going to provide, but a lot of this too, NRCS recognizes we are not the be-all, end-all of data. We are not the data stewards for a lot of this critical information. Our partners are. So, you know, a lot of the information that we need, we really need to rely on the partnership to help us find, synthesize, go over, and provide for consideration, right? So as Travis spoke about earlier, the partnership is critical on the success of these projects. So humans, soil information, take a look at water, watersheds and streams, water quality issues, you know, our impairment, do we have any TMDL listed streams, and for what parameters are they listed? Groundwater drinking issues, air and energy, plants and animals. And so when you complete this section, you should be able to answer some of these questions. You know, what's the current state of natural resources in the county? What are the demographics Who are our customers? Who are we working with? Who owns the land and can make decisions? Third part is taking analysis and taking a look at the data. What have we done in the past? What has NRCS done? What have our partners done? Where are people working? What have we been working on? And why have we been working on? Why is it important? And hopefully in general, what is remaining that needs treatment? So again, we have this section of, clarifying statements. When complete, in addition to all the other data, we should be able to answer these questions. What conservation work has been done. And in our initial analysis, which might be the best addressed by NRCS. So NRCS has sideboards, right? So we can't work on any and all projects, natural resource projects. We're limited by the Farm Bill mostly, and the parameters that are set forth by the programs that we're mandated to implement. So NRCS does have to work within those sideboards, but it creates a unique opportunity because our resource issues don't always fit neatly within the sideboards that NRCS can provide funding and people. So that's where the partnership comes in. And maybe it's only NRCS can only work on one piece of it. And our partners really need to come to the table and work on the other critical piece. And together, we have a viable project that we can move the needle on some issue. So again, partners are so critical in the success of these projects. And then section 4 is the desired future outcomes. It's really taking a look at each of the resource issues that the community has developed through these facilitated meetings and visualizing what success looks like. Take a look at resource trends, how have these problems changed over time? And really taking a look at, how do we get there? How do we, this vision of success? I want to offer an example. And traditionally NRCS would say, hey, in this watershed, we have a TMDL listed stream for excessive sediment and pathogens. We need to prescribe conservation practices to delist that stream. All right, what does that mean? Maybe to some of us, we have a picture in our mind what that is, but that's pretty hard to communicate to the community. So what we really want people to be able to explain is like, what does that actually look like on the ground? Does it look like, hey, our water is fishable and swimmable? It's clean. We can take our kids down to the water, they can go swim and they're not going to get sick. There's less water treatment costs. There's less restrictions on fishing and what we can eat and what fish we can eat. There's less impact to our nearshore reefs. So those are the kind of visualizations we're looking for in these plans. These are just some of the questions, again, about kind of reviewing, like it's our gut check for this section. Did we answer these critical questions or not? And back to this, visualization, we also need to know, how do we know when we're done? How do we know when this particular project or issue is complete? When can we move on? Or is this something that we're just going to be chipping at forever and never making any meaningful progress? Those are the things we really need to think about. So we're investing our money wisely on projects that we can actually make an impact on. And then section 5 is prioritizing those. Say, okay, of the 3 to 5, priority issues that are really important to our community, are really important impacting, our island's health. Only so much time, resources, funding. Where do we start? Where do we go first? Where do we put our money first? And in this process, we would rank them. Is it actionable? Can NRCS work with the people that are identified that are needed to move the needle on this project? Are the costs feasible? Do we have enough money to move the needle on this stuff? Is this $1 billion project, or is this a $5 million project? One of them we can really work meaningful towards, and the other one we couldn't. And then also just, do the resource concerns meet national, state, local objectives? Just kind of making sure we're tying all those pieces together. And then the last section are the targeted conservation plans and investment portfolio. And I'll go over that template next. And this is the part of the field office long-range plan that's very dynamic. It's going to change from year to year. It's going to, our TCP, our proposals, our bite-sized chunks of projects that we're going to be working on, they're going to change every year. And even a proposal that's been approved one year, we might decide in the second year of it, we need to make some changes, and that's okay. We've created that kind of flexibility. But this just talks about the targeted conservation plans portfolio, and what they're comprised of. So those are the 6 sections of the long-range plan here. Green box. So next we're going to talk about these targeted conservation plans, these TCPs. All right. Hopefully that's big enough. And so again, a template, just kind of review of project details. And this is just to kind of give you an idea of what kind of information we're going to be looking for, what a proposal will look like. And so basic, project information, start date, end date, lead partner, if applicable. NRCS recognizes we are not always the champion of every issue, and our partners absolutely can and should take an active role in pulling proposals together and proposing projects and saying, hey, we've got a great project. This is what our agency or our partnership has been working on. We think it's really important. It also aligns with one of the really important priorities in the field office long-range plan. We think this would be a great TCP. And we've already started looking at your TCP framework, and you can even reach out to the DCs and submit your draft proposals and work with them. This doesn't have to be something that the district conservationist, NRCS district conservationist, does all on their own. We really want the partnership to be coming to us with great ideas, because we know you got them and you're eager to get these projects implemented too. So it'll be project overview, what's the purpose, what's the need, how does it help achieve the LRP vision goals, problem statement. A lot of these bullets, some of this can just be 1 or 2 sentences. It doesn't have to be pages and pages, because the TCP is going to tier, right? It's going to align itself with the long-range plan. And if it aligns itself with the long-range plan, we already know it's important, valuable, and kind of makes the cut, right? Description of goals and objectives, making sure we're looking at alternatives, and what are our proposed solutions and actions. From there, we really want to look at partner contributions. Is the partnership able to bring anything to the table? Do they have funding that they can bring in? People, resources, technical assistance, equipment, whatever it might be. So this is kind of where we're going to summarize, what the partnership is bringing in. The partner name, and it's just some examples. Are they bringing cash to the table, or is it in-kind people? In this scenario, they're bringing 2 full-time equivalents, two people essentially, with a salary of $55,000 a year each, to help implement this particular project. And then the funding request summary, that's the ask. This is what would be submitted to NRCS leadership for consideration of funding. This is what you want to help you achieve what you've outlined in your project. And we really need you to outline, what additional planning, how much financial assistance you need, where is the project going to be, what practices are going to be prioritized, who's going to coordinate and manage it, and is there a plan for operation and maintenance of the projects? So in this example, it's You're identifying which programs you think are applicable. So it could be multiple programs, it could be equip and CSP or equip and easements, etc. How much money? And then here you're listing out the practices and activities. And this piece is important. Proposals need to be very specific and intentional. A proposal that says, hey, we want to include all NRCS conservation practices because we're not sure what might come through the door. Well, that's not very specific. We really want everyone to think those through ahead of time. We want to say, hey, we're working on grazing lands to tackle the spittlebug issue. These are the top 10 practices that are specifically needed to mitigate the threat of the spittlebug and grazing lands in our watersheds. We need to treat at least 15,000 acres, and if we implement X number of practices, it's going to cost $500,000. That's what we want. Specific, intentional, so we know what we're investing in. It helps us find focus. It helps us know where we're going to work. So again, this just kind of breaks it down that you can have, multiple programs, multiple practices and extents, and summarizing what technical assistance. So you can also, in this, make requests for staff and people. Say, hey, along with this proposal, we actually need 2 technicians to go along with us to implement this. This represents a lot of work and a short time frame. NRCS staff is already busy with a lot of other projects. We need some focus on this. We think we need at least 2 technicians for 3 years to get this done. And NRCS does have funds, competitive grant funding, for projects like this that we can consider as part of the proposal. And this is where you just summarize the total, per year and for the whole project. Last pieces here, progress and evaluation, supporting documentation. How are you going to measure progress? I'm sorry. Who's going to do it? Who's going to evaluate it? And who's going to monitor on the ground projects? We want some maps. We want to be able to visually see where you're going to work and why. And also supporting documents from partners. What contributions are the partners bringing in? Do we have contribution letters signed by them? That's going to add a lot of weight to these proposals. And so those are the overviews of the long-range plans and the targeted conservation proposals, the TCPs. Wanted to give you guys a quick review of the timeline as well. So this is a Gantt chart. I'm not sure if you can really see this, but if you can't, I'll just kind of give you a quick overview here. The months are across the top here, so it's September of this year through September of next year. Our program rollout is happening right now. And then the long-range planning meetings is this lighter green right here. So that's going to happen throughout this fall and early winter. And this is where we're reaching out to partners. We're having meetings. Hopefully you're hearing from the partnership or the DCs inviting you to collaborate in these meetings. If not, please reach out to your local DCs. And that's where we're gleaning information, gathering data, figuring out what the priorities are. From there, throughout the winter, we're going to be drafting the LRPs, the long-range plans, field office long-range plans, and putting all that data together, synthesizing and putting it in that template. February timeframe, we're going to be finalizing those long-range plans, saying, okay, these are the priorities, this is the timeline, this is what we want to work on for the next 3 to 5 years. Okay, ready, set, go. From there, that's where in the spring and early summer, that's when we make selections for which TCPs, which proposals we're going to develop, right? This year we want 1. We're asking each field office to work on at least 1 targeted conservation proposal to submit for consideration for FY21 funding. So that's going to take some work, right? We know it's going to take a big chunk of time, so it's going to go, range from February to July timeframe, where we're working on the process, going out on landscape, thinking about the practices that need to be implemented to move the needle. How much money is that going to take? What are we going to work? Who are we going to work with? Very specifically. And then those proposals get sent to NRCS leadership. We review them, select them, request any changes, and then make decisions on funding for FY21. We'll make those decisions by September 30th of next year. So basically, this is the whole next year kind of planned out and all the steps along the way. This will get easier in future years because we won't have this long-range planning meeting section, and we'll be able to stretch out these other steps throughout the entire year, and which will make it a bit easier as we move forward. The heaviest lift is just going to be this first year. And with that, Travis, I think I've covered all the main points we wanted to go over. That's the how we plan to get through this year and make this happen with the partners' help.
Great. Chad, thank you so much. As you can tell, for those of you on the call, Chad's been a key player in helping a lot of this come to fruition. So definitely this is a team effort, and it really speaks volumes to how important we see that partners are in this, and hence this call. One thing I did want to clarify, so if you looked at the Gantt chart and some of the long-range planning meetings, development of that started in September, we recognize that our real hard deadlines, our LRPs really should be finalized in February, and TCPs in, I believe, August. And those are really the key deadlines that we're focusing on. So if you're on the call and you're thinking, oh my, I haven't heard about a local work group meeting to plan this, that's fine. We've got different levels of partners doing some of this work. And please, if you're interested in a particular area, please reach out to your district conservationist. We can get you that contact information. So with that said, we wanted to open up some time to the general group. You've seen kind of our pitch, this framework of this targeted conservation delivery model, and get your feedback, answer any questions you might have, and say welcome to this great collaborative process of targeted conservation delivery for NRCS. So any questions that anybody has, feel free to ask questions, or if you're on Microsoft Teams, you can chat, submit your question in the chat section. So feel free to ask questions.
Hey, Thomas, this is Brenda. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hi, Brenda.
Hi, I'm not going to share my screen because I refuse. If your hair looks better than mine, I'm definitely not going to share my screen. So that's the reason for that. But anyway, joking aside, thank you for inviting me onto this call. It's very important for us to know what our counterparts are doing. Like you said early on, we're all in it to help our rural communities in different directions, us with the business programs, our housing for rural communities, as well as our community facilities to help our rural communities. But, agriculture is part of that as well in our business center. So we want to know what's happening here, and if there's any overlap and we can help your customers. I often send people to FSA when they don't qualify for our grant. So it's important to know what you guys are doing, what you have available. And I appreciate, including us on this call. That had been said, I wanted to let you know that RD had an entirely great year this year, even though we were pandemic and we were still not back in the office. We did $39.7 billion in RD this year, highest it's ever been since the last 10 years. So we're able to reach out to our communities in these troubled times. And I know that you guys, you guys had to get back into the office because you have to go out in the field and meet with people. And so we appreciate your efforts as well. And thank you for including us in this call. And we would love to participate in future calls with you as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Brenda. For those of you that may not be familiar with Brenda, so Brenda is the director for USDA's rural development. agency, and they, like us, have access, as you heard, congratulations, have the ability to leverage significant funds. And you know, as I think about this process, you know, as we think about the long range planning, some of those key critical issues, the beauty of this process is that it will identify partners or gaps, maybe of other partners that may be able to come and sit at the table. And I really do think, you know, rural development, Farm Service Agency, APHIS within USDA really do play a key critical part of helping our agricultural and rural communities. So Brenda, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate that feedback, and congratulations on a banner year. That's awesome. All right. I see that Hope, hi Hope. Hope is on the Northern Guam Soil Water Conservation District. She submitted a chat in the chat box, and yeah, we just want to tell you thank you. They actually received the grant to help facilitate the long-range plan and the targeted conservation plan for the territory of Guam. So we really look forward to a successful TCD approach out there in Guam. So thanks for joining, Hope. Any other questions?
Hi, Travis. This is Dora. Can you hear me?
Hi, Dora. Yeah,
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hey, thank you for the really comprehensive outline and also the template that seems a lot more structured and you know, targeted in terms of what to focus on. One of the questions that I had was, I know there's a need to have some specifics and focus details, I suppose, like Chad was talking about, in order to attain the goal. But there might be multiple things that need to all come together in order to attain that specific goal. Does the framework or this approach allow for these multi-pronged approaches to come together that then maybe help address one specific target goal? We might have to try a few different things. Just curious how you see that fitting in.
Yeah, great question. And I hope I understand your question correctly. And if I can, maybe rephrase it and make sure I am. But there may be potential projects that have multiple kind of moving parts in order to make the project successful. And how is NRCS going to take those into consideration moving forward? Is that your question?
Yeah, and that the moving parts definitely, but also they may be from different. You might have something in water, you might have something in soil, you might have something in forestry. Like that's all part of, but it may be all in different program areas. So does that mean you break it up? Because a one site can be having many of these, you know,
yeah,
strategies.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, multiple resource issues. So yeah, we recognize in this first year there are going to be a lot of questions and a lot of dynamic issues at play for this. But if you go back to the targeted conservation plan, that targeted conservation plan is going to come from those key priority issues that are identified in the long range plan. It is entirely plausible that in one area, there may be one centric resource issue or category that may be the focus of a TCP. There also may be another area of the Pacific where there may be a handful or a couple of resource issues that are contributing to the overall challenge at stake. Now, with that said, we're looking at proposals that hopefully can be done in a 1 to 3, maybe 5-year period. We don't want to see proposals that are trying to, as Chad referred earlier, to consume the entire elephant in one bite. We'd like to see these really be strategic about their approach. So if there is a project where we recognize that we need to address maybe some soil erosion and a water quality, or maybe some other resource, critical resource issue, and there are multiple solutions there, and it's a viable project to be done in a few-year period, then I think working with the district conservationist, you're going to put that in the proposal, and we've allowed for multiple programs to be utilized within the TCP. So we absolutely have created the flexibility to address those types of issues. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, we absolutely intend and hope that people are utilizing multiple NRCS programs, but not only be limited to NRCS, but the power of this is really utilizing the local partnerships, NGOs, local, state, federal entities. We recognize that NRCS is not the only player at the table. Travis Usinger, hey, great first name, by the way. Good to see you, Travis. Travis asked a question about funding. Am I correct in understanding that the funding available is primarily for the partners to hire additional planners and for targeted conservation practices through the usual NRCS practices, for example, equip? And he says, I think his answers or question is answered, but Chad, do you want to take a stab at that one? If you're still on.
Yep, I'm still on.
Great.
So there's two pieces of funding, right? So we have technical assistance funds, what we call TA, and financial assistance funds, which we call FA, and that comes in the form of what you think of traditionally our Farm Bill programs, EQIP, CSP, our ASEP programs, traditional land treatment programs. And so in your proposal, you can request both. You can request that those technical assistance funds, that could be for the partner to work with us in an agreement, via an agreement, to hire on additional planners to help us achieve the outcomes of the TCP proposal. So in the example we had given, it was, to do all this work on grazing lands to address spittlebug threats, we need at least 2 more technicians. So in your TCP proposal, you could outline that and say, hey, to get all this work done, we also think we need an agreement to bring on 2 additional conservation planners to help us implement this stuff. Does that answer it, Travis? Let's see what the second part is.
Travis or Travis?
Travis.
Yeah, well, I think I think you did a great job answering. But yeah, there are two sources, and of course, this is primarily for financial assistance funding. One thing I might add is we do have many staff out there. We also have additional partners, and so district conservationists and the partnerships are going to be taking a look at additional staff, or taking a look at existing staff and seeing, hey, can we tackle this issue or this proposal with existing staff, and if not, what do we need to do to bridge the gap? And that's really where that TA request comes in.
Yeah, and I think it should also be noted, in this past year, we got about 10 million in financial assistance dollars. We don't have 10 million in technical assistance dollars to put into these agreements. The technical assistance money is very limited in its amount. So it would only really be approved in very clear-cut cases or where it's absolutely critical.
Yep, good, good. So yeah, Travis, in the TCP, the money that you are requesting through the TCP is going to be a Farm Bill program, as Chad mentioned, EQIP, CSP, AMA, even ASEP, our easement programs. I know I threw some acronyms out there. We've got partners, but those are our typical financial assistance programs. And that's what the FA funding is going to be. Now, we recognize and hope that for those elements of the project that NRCS cannot do, that there's going to be partner funds, whatever sources may be out there that may be available through, NGOs or other federal entities or a state entity. We recognize that, it's going to be a mix and match of funds, but this TCP is going to be specific to requesting NRCS financial and technical assistance funds. All right, any other questions out there? Well, in the absence of some questions, still, continue to feel free until we're off. Chad, do you want to add any last closing comments before we let folks go?
Yeah, thanks, Travis. Just appreciate the opportunity to work through this with the partnership. I really see this as the most powerful and influential way to move forward and really creating change on the landscape. We have an immense opportunity to work with private landowners, to collaborate with partners like you who are on the phone, and make some really awesome change on the landscape for the good of our communities. And so I think this is going to be a really great tool in the toolbox to help us achieve that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chad. I am really excited. I really think the key to successful conservation, or if you look at our vision, resilient islands with clean and abundant water, healthy soils, and thriving agricultural communities, partnerships are at the heart of that vision. And I really look forward to working with each of you at the local level to continue to build resilient islands out there. So I don't see any more questions, but I want to thank everybody for their time today. Please reach out to your local district conservationist, or feel free to reach out to myself or Chad or Susan Kubo, who's our Assistant Director for Partnerships, on any questions or any feedback that you have, and we'll go from there. It looks like, Jamie, real quick, so will the partner organizations be the ones leading the charge, so to speak, in identifying what the resource concerns where the TCP will be? So great question. Jamie, the partner organizations are essentially working hand in hand with the district conservationists to lead a facilitated discussion on developing the field office long-range plan. And that field office long-range plan is then going to essentially direct what TCPs are developed. And the partner organizations won't be making those decisions on what TCPs will be submitted. We're leaving it up to the local work groups, the district conservationists, to work with the partners to develop a TCP or multiple TCPs through that process. Those partner organizations that I talked about earlier are essentially facilitating those discussions for those desired outcomes. I hope that answers your question. Okay, good, good. All right. If there are no more questions, partners, thank you so much for your time. NRCS team, let's keep at it. You're doing a great job out there, and we'll talk to all of you soon. Have a great day, and thank you.